So here is the question is like the first topic that we will discuss about, like a delegation from India will visit Pakistan on Feb 28 to attend the 117th meeting of Permanent Indus Commission from March 1 to 3rd. So basically understanding Water Indus Water Treaty. So basically in this section we will cover like governance part, governance and polity as well, and social justice we can cover, international relation we can cover, India and its neighborhood relation, that is a portion of IR, which is the international relation. So this topic is very important in terms of your exam, because in terms of your like syllabus part, like the prelims and as well as mains exam is concerned. So in this article we discuss about like how the treaty came into light and what was the relation behind India and Pakistan, and how the treaty has to be how the treaty is very important in the geopolitical interest of India and as well as Pakistan. So basically this article is very important. So let's discuss about what exactly the article is. So what about the context first? So a 10-member delegation from India will visit Pakistan on Feb 28 to attend 117th meeting of the Permanent Indus Commission. So what the first, if you talk about the basic funda like Indus and Sindhu. So what exactly the difference Indus and Sindhu? So basically if you talk about the Rig Vedic Sindhu is thought to be present day Indus river. So Sindhu is what like in the Rig Vedic era we used to say like Sindhu river, that is a present day we say like what we say like Indus. So Indus Commission basically used to for the treaty for the like three rivers used to be followed by the India and three rivers used to be followed by the Pakistan. So Indus Commission of Indus Water will lead the delegation visiting like this one. So two countries hold a yearly meeting. So that is the annual meeting to discuss cooperation on the Indus treaty signed by both in 1960. When the treaty was signed in 1960. 1960 was the treaty was signed, and how was the importance? What exactly the importance? So commissions are required to meet at least once a year. Alternately, in India and Pakistan. In 2019, the meeting was not held in the wake of Indo-Pak tensions, and as we know, then that time there was a Pulwama attack is over there. So that was that political tensions was there in between the two countries. So that's why the meeting was not held on that time. So that's why the meeting is now going to be very important in terms of India's interest as well. So first we have to understand the basic facts about. Here we can see here is the Indus, right? And this one is like as we know the Punjab came into light. So as we know like Punjab, what exactly the term is, what how the name has to be come is like Punjab. Punjab, which means is made of Panj and Ab. As you can say, the name Punjab has to be taken like Panj, which means 5, and Ab, which means water. So name Punjab like is made of two words like Panj and Ab, which means water, the land of 5 rivers. And which one is the 5 rivers is Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. That 5 rivers, Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. So that was the 5 rivers. So that's why land of 5 rivers is known to be a Punjab. So Punjab, which means Panj means 5 and Ab means water. 5 rivers, which one is? You have to make it like in a chronological sequence like Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. They're flowing through the Indus River. So as you can look it very carefully in this map, so we got to know that here is the JNK, which is Jammu and Kashmir, here is the Jhelum. And Kishan Ganga and Neelam is moving here. And if you look it very carefully, the Western River, how the Indus Water Treaty is important, the distribution of water of Indus and its tributaries is India and Pakistan governed by Indus Water Treaty, was signed in September 1960. The date is important. Pakistan and representative World Bank. So World Bank is basically funding work. So with the help of World Bank after 8 years of negotiations. Partition of India cut across the Indus River basins, which has the Indus River plus 5 of its main tributaries. So western rivers, India got these rivers, like we can say Chenab, Jhelum and I. So we can say CGI. So that trick is important because Chenab, Jhelum and Indus river is going to the western rivers is a part of India, and the eastern rivers like Satluj, Beas and Ravi, India right over these over these rivers, all exclusive right lie with India. And this one India rights over these rivers is limited. Limited, which means that can set up certain irrigations, run of the river power plants, very limited storage we can take, because because India have a rights of western river as well and eastern river as well, but they have some certain rights over this, right? So domestic and non-consumptive use all subject to be conditioned, because as you know that the irrigation is very important. If the talk about the any countries, like because irrigation supply is important in terms of like, if you know, like in our agriculture system, because as per the government data around 55% people is still dependent on agriculture. So in that context we came to know that, so irrigation supply chain is very important in terms of like the interest of the farmers as well, right? So here is China, all the rivers is taking from the, once every 5 years conduct a general inspection of all rivers in all part of the inspections tour so far. So we can say here is Brahmaputra, Ganga, Assam, and this part is a part of China as well. So basically all these rivers is taking from the Tibetan plateau. So we have to look it very carefully in this map, so you got to know that how this is very important, right? So the 5 rivers is here: Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Chenab and Jhelum. What your homework is that you have to find it out like the tributaries of all these rivers, because that is important in terms of your exam, right? Okay. So here it is, like the Indus River basin has 6 rivers like Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. That is originating from Tibet Plateau, which I told you already, Tibetan Plateau, and flowing through the Himalayas range to enter Pakistan, ending in the south of Karachi. So these all the rivers, which is the Indus water treaty, like Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj, that is originating from the Tibetan Plateaus and with the end of south of Karachi. So in 1947, the line of partition aside from delineating geographical boundaries for India and Pakistan also cut the Indus River system into. Both the sides were dependent on water from the Indus River basin to keep their irrigation infrastructure functional, and therefore equitable distribution was needed. Equitable distribution, which means that, what exactly the meaning of equity and equitable? Equality and equity, which means a difference. Like equality, which means that, for example, I'm just giving you very short and lucid example through which you will get to know that what exactly that equality and equity. So basically, for example, here is a like a match is going on between India and for example Pakistan, and there's a seating arrangement for those one which have a very good amount of height. And second more example is that in the second window, the same things is here. India and Pakistan match is going on, and there is seating arrangement for all those people. But how it possible? Because here is the people who is less than 4 feet, and below 4 feet you are not able to see this one. There is an equality, not equity. Equity, which means that giving a equal chance to everyone. Make sure. Equity, which means that giving equal chance to everyone. So basically we are giving equality, not equitable. So that is a difference. So that particular word is also important. So initially the Inter-Domain Accord of May 1948 was adopted, when both countries after meeting of conference decided that India would supply water to Pakistan in exchange of annual payment. So in that time, in May 1948, what was the history? So India would supply water to Pakistan in exchange for an annual payment made by the latter. This agreement, however, soon integrated as both the countries could not agree upon its common interpretation. And then what happened the next? Okay, so in 1951, because that was a disagreement between the both the countries, so what happened the next, like funding of their respective irrigation, that is helping by the World Bank. Now you can see there was a dispute between like both the countries is talking about like equitable share. Now it what happened, so here is now the World Bank in the picture role, and what they are doing, so funding of their respective irrigation project of Indus and its tributaries, which is when the World Bank offered a mediator to conflict. So finally in 1960, in September 1960, nearly a decade of fact-finding negotiation proposal by the World Bank. So make sure the Indus Water Treaty was happened with the help of World Bank, right? Sometimes it's given in the statement in your prelims exam, like Indus Water Treaty, what happened with the World Economic Forum. So that statement would be incorrect. Make sure. So that's why the once you start reading the newspaper, you got to know the fact what exactly is happening in the read between the lines. So you have to make sure you have to be the read between the lines how the things is going on. So proposal by the World Bank and amendments to them. An agreement was reached between the two countries and the Indus Water Treaty was signed. The former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and then President of Pakistan Ayub Khan. That is not more important because they will not ask about the name. But yes, you have to general data like for the Jawaharlal Nehru and the President of Pakistan, which was that time Ayub Khan. Now, if you talk about what exactly was the key provision was there. The treaty prescribed how water from the 6 rivers of the Indus River system would be shared between India and Pakistan. The 3 western rivers, as we have discussed, Indus, Chenab and Jhelum, to Pakistan for unrestricted use, because barring certain non-consumption agriculture and domestic use by India, and the 3 eastern rivers, as we have discussed, Ravi, Beas and Satluj, those 3 eastern rivers were allocated to India for unrestricted uses. This means 80% of the share of water, or about 130 million of acres feet MAF, went to Pakistan, which means that 80% share of water which goes to Pakistan, and while leaving the rest 33% or 20% of water for use by India. So it also required both the countries to establish a permanent Indus Commission. So then what had happened, because as we can see 80% uses that was a 3 eastern river, but that was by Pakistan, and 20% river by the uses for by India. That's why established a permanent Indus Commission, including serving as a forum for exchange of information on the rivers for continued cooperation and as a first stop for resolution of conflicts. So both of the countries had decided to follow this one. So as we can, as here we can say, so Pakistan has right over the waters of Jhelum, Chenab and Indus, and India has shared information on the project designed to alternation made to it with Pakistan, which is acquired to respond with objections if any within 3 months of receipt. So besides of that, India is allowed to have a minimum storage level on the western part, western rivers, meaning it can store only 3.75 MAF of waters for conservation and flood storage purpose. So this treaty also provides a 3-step resolution mechanism. As you can see that if there is a dispute, so we have a dispute redressal mechanism. So also in this treaty there was a dispute resolution mechanism, which question of both the sides can be resolved. A permanent commission can also be taken up the intergovernmental government level. So in that context, IWT also provides a 3-step dispute resolutions mechanism under which, so in case of unresolved questions on differences between the countries of water sharing, such as technical differences, either side can appropriate the World Bank to appoint a neutral. So if the both the country have a disputes over this, the World Bank can appoint a neutral expert, which is the NE, to come to a decision. And eventually, either a party is not satisfied with the any decisions, or in case of disputes in the interpretation and extent of the treaty, matters can be referred a court of arbitration. So we can say if the both the country is not happy with the uh, any part, that is neutral expert part, in that case that matters which goes to what, court of arbitrations, right? So basically we can say present objection of three Indian hydropower projects. So as we can say, the geopolitical interest is also important. Both the country wants a geo hydropower project, and that hydropower project is also important because we can generate electricity. So, and that because most of the discom company wants the hydropower projects. So in the upcoming meetings, Pakistan is likely bearing up the objections that three Indian hydropower project, that is a Chenab basins in Jammu and Kashmir, the 1000 megawatt Pakaldul project and Kalnai project. We will got to know the map on that, and Kidu project. So basically Pakaldul and then Kalnai project and Kidu project. Aside from other smaller hydropower unit, India wants to develop in Ladakh as well. Is a recent treaty of Union Territories of India. India has already said, however, that the project are in the full compliance with the Indus Water Treaty. That's why that was a matter is going on in the newspaper and the important of your upcoming exams. As we can say, here is a on the map, here is Pakaldul, here is Kirtal, here is Naunatu. So that was hydropower project. So in the interest of that, that's why country wants to its own interest. So basically you got to know about the basic facts about the Indus Water Treaty. Now it has been like the first thing, like what have been the past objection raised under the treaty. So past objection, while the treaty has been regarded internationally as a successful diplomatic efforts which managed to withstand three wars and multiple military impasses between the countries. So the treaty, according to observers, became a source of dissatisfaction between the two countries, because if we talk about, as we know, got to know, the 20% of the water is given to the India and 80% was given to the Pakistan. So basically there was a growing demand for water to extensively technical nature of documents rooted in its annexures, and the fact that the western river flow through the conflict region of Jammu and Kashmir. So there was a growing demand. So if you talk about the history, in 2010, so Pakistan took the matter of International Court of Arbitrations, and as we know the fact that the country has established a World Bank, and World Bank will work as a redressal mechanism, and that time International Court of Arbitration at the Hague, this time objecting the diversion of water from Kishan Ganga, and the court gave its final ruling in December 2013, giving India as a green signal for the project subject to conditions. The conflict, however, did not end here, with Pakistan approving the World Bank 3 years in 2016. And again 2018, what did happen? Objecting to the design, it also tried to construction of the dam in 2016 by firing shells near the dam site in 2016. So lots of hydropower project was there between the two countries, as we have recently seen in the map. So Pakistan had objected the Salal Dam project. Salal Dam project. So find it out in the map portion where is Salal Dam project, and 1970 over design concern negotiation for which ended in 1978. So the established by World Bank was given the decision to the So what exactly you need to mention it? So basically, in the way forward, IWT, Indus Water Treaty, does not have a unilateral exit provision. It means with the with having the both of the countries possible to be mutually agreement basically. So both the country if you will agree, then you can further proceed for the pact. So basically, the role of India as a responsible upper riparian abiding by the provisions of the treaty has been remarkable, but the country is under pressure to rethink the extent of which it can be remain commitment to the provision. So as its overall political relation with Pakistan become intractable. So Indus Water Treaty is often cited as an example of the possibilities of peaceful coexistence that exist despite the troubled relations between both neighboring countries. So what we got to know the Indus Water Treaty. So basically, like what the role played earlier and what was the role of World Bank and the NE and on the map how the rivers was flowing through Indus water. So this was the important in terms of your exam. So in the short techniques, you got to know that this is kind of mind map. So with the help of mind maps, you can think about, like, as you can see, here is Indus, here is Indus Water Treaty, and here is how the treaty was worked till now. So Indus, like the waters of Indus Basin begins in Tibet and Himalayan mountain, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So that kind of mind map is very useful, like once you are going to revise the topics, because as you can see the water of Indus Basin begins in Tibetan and Himalayan mountains, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The flow from hills through the state of Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir and Sindh. There were only a narrow strip of irrigated and along these rivers. Developments over the last century have created a large network of canals and storage facilities. And how the Indus Water Treaty? It is a water distribution treaty between India and Pakistan, brokered by the World Bank. The treaty signed by the Karachi by the PM of India, Nehru and Ayub Khan. And then third, you can mention, like, according to this treaty, control over the 3 eastern rivers were given to India, and while control over these 3 western rivers were given to Pakistan. Eastern rivers include Beas, Ravi and Satluj. Western rivers, which means Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. Then Pakistan river flow through the India's first. The treaty allowed India to use them the irrigation. So this kind of man map is very important. How the treaty is working, it has been mentioned, ratification treaty in 1960. That kind of short map that is good for the revision purpose. In a one page, you got to know the every facts in the prelims examination is concerned. So that's why you can make it yours own, like how the Indus Water Treaty, like such as some kind of diagram, like here is Indus Water Treaty, IWT, and make like this one diagram, such kind of diagram, so that you know one page you got to know that every facts about that, what was the picture earlier and what is now. So you got to know the entire story in a single page. So that is good for the revision purpose.